welcome. Today on Book Talk with Bookish Erika, I am interviewing author Abel Montero. Abel, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm excited to chat about your book.
Hi, Erika. Thank you for having me. It's really, really exciting.
Yeah. So you have written an epic fantasy book, The Crimson Fire. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Okay, that's the kind of question that makes every writer cry.
It does. It's a tough question.
Okay, it's an epic fantasy story with a political thriller, character-driven, absolutely no prophecies, a lot of backstabbing, a lot of emotional moments. It has an ancient Sumerian slash Arabic aesthetic, but it also has a lot of the classic fantasy elements that we love. It's really based on um, self-discovery, and the political undertone is about self acceptance and the nature of power. So there's a lot of really interesting discussions, but with a couple of really powerful, if I can say so myself, action scenes and a really explosive ending. And I loved writing this story, and the feedback has been amazing. So I'm really happy about it. Yeah,
You
I'm
should
really happy.
be. You should be thrilled. This is sounds like everything that I love in a fantasy book. I like the complex storylines. I like when there's actions, a lot of character drive. I'm really interested in the backstabbing. I think that it's just always fun to read and write.
Yeah, absolutely. When you pull the rug under the feet of your readers, and they are, you did not, but I actually did.
You
So
did. I love that. So where did you get your inspiration for this book?
that's kind of funny because I think I am in a pretty unique position. So I've been a reader for most of my life. I've been an enjoyer of every kind of storytelling, from comic books to video games to movies. But one thing that it is really consistent for me, that always happens, is when I see a supporting character, someone who's not exactly the protagonist. And 99% of the time, 100% of the time, I'll ask myself, who is this guy? Who is this girl? What happened to him? What happens to her? I want to know more about him. I want to know more about her. And that happens for the lore. So, sometimes, especially in highly serialized stories, you have, you see that the author is throwing stuff at the wall to see if anything sticks. And you see them trying to foreshadow things, and maybe they don't get to give a proper payoff to that. And I collected an amount of questions. So I want to know more about the character. I want to know more about that origin story that no one ever cared to explain to myself. And then I got to a point when I decided to Thanos myself. I said, okay, I'll do it myself. I'll write the story myself. I will write that character origin story myself. I will write that lore, that exploration about that ancient world myself. And that was basically what sparked my the decision to start writing my stories, because I wanted answer that nobody was wanted to give me, and I decided to write those answers, and those answers became the origin of my world building and character arcs, and that's how I started to write my very first novel, many years ago. And I think I will keep doing it that way because I need those answers, and I'm going to write those answers for myself.
I love that. I think that's such a unique answer to that question. And I think it really shows that you have such a love of the story. You have a love of
Yeah,
like hearing
absolutely.
the story, learning the story, but you took that love and you made it into your own thing where now you get to create the stories that you want to hear. And so I think
Yeah,
that's really cool.
yeah. I would love to be that kind of author who said, I've been writing since I was 5 years old, and I've been always been inspired by great stories and myths and themes. No, I'm cheap. I'm a cheap guy. I'm just picky and I'm nosy and I want to know what's going on. And I think that compelling questions, they're a big driver for compelling stories. So when you get to ask really interesting questions with your stories and you're able to hook up your audience with them, then you have to actually deliver on those questions. It's an
Hmm.
interesting exercise, and it's also a really powerful um, vehicle to expand empathy and to basically be better persons.
Hmm.
Since I've started actually reading seriously tons of books every years and writing my stories, I grew up a lot. I became a better person. So I think that people who don't read, they don't know what they're missing. Really, it's
I would
crazy.
agree. Yeah, I think that books have so much to offer people. And I really do think that there is the right book out there for everyone. They just haven't
Yeah.
found the book for them or the style of book, style of writing. And so it probably has made asking all of these compelling questions has probably really helped your own writing, because you're asking those questions to begin with.
Mhm.
Um, but what have you discovered about yourself through your writing?
That's a big question. That's kind of an existential question. So one thing that I discovered is that writing and reading, it's a very good way to try to put myself in other people's shoes, to actually try to actively understand their motivations, how they actually think, and how they move. And when I did my 100 followers, it seems silly. It's such a small number now, but 100 followers, subscribers on YouTube, I did a video with a couple of questions, and one of those was that one. And I said, I didn't have a really happy childhood, but reading was one of my safe places because it actually helped me to try to understand the bad things that were happening in my life.
Mhm.
And so I think that I discovered that by growing up in such a difficult environment, I learned to shield myself in a really effective way from the rest of the world, growing this huge wall between myself and everyone else. And I think that many people can relate with that because the world is hard. It's difficult to be a human being and to deal with others and to face struggles of any kind. And I discovered that I'm actually able to face a lot of things that sounded really scary because of the way I saw other people facing similar challenges in novels, the way they try to understand themselves and the others, trying answers, and allowing themselves the grace to make mistakes and
Mhm.
those compelling novels, they always have characters that are not perfect, are not overpowered. They mess up a lot, but somehow, in some way, they prevail. And even if they don't prevail, they somehow get better because of the struggle they're going through. So
Mhm.
seeing that you can allow yourself to make mistakes, that you don't have to be afraid of being weak or to not be perfect, it's such a gift, especially for someone who really had to struggle with interaction in general with people. So I learned that I am capable of doing much more than I thought I was capable to do. And
Yeah.
that was because of the power of storytelling in general. And I think it's a great gift. And that's why I try to influence people around myself and then try to push them to read and to try to search the right book for them, as you said.
Hmm.
Even when they actually tell me, look, I cannot read more than two pages and then I get bored. And I tell them, don't worry, I'll search another book. We'll find another book. We'll find a way because you'll learn something about yourself too. Yeah.
Yep. That is such a beautiful answer to a
Thank you
complex
so much.
question, like you said.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people can relate to that, where books are their safe place. They were their escape.
Mhm.
They go to books for comfort. And so I think that that probably once again makes you a better storyteller because you've been on the reader side of that. And now
Mhm.
you can also kind of insert that into your writing as well. And like you, I love books where the people are not perfect. I love when they make mistakes. I love when there might be a little bit of gray area and they have to learn and there's character development. I love a good like character arc and I like seeing where we end up after they make all these decisions. So I
Exactly.
think a lot of people can really relate to that. It's unfortunate that we need a safe place or an escape from books.
Now
But
that's
it's nice
life.
that we have that. That
Yeah,
is life. Life is tough.
absolutely.
Yeah. What is your favorite part of the writing and publishing journey?
Okay, so I have a really product-oriented mind because my background is in graphic design and in advertisement. I'm actually a art director for the advertisement field, and so my mind works on the with the goal of producing a final product to deliver in the hands of your customer. So I really enjoyed the conceptualization of the final product. And that means that I never think just about the story. I work in tandem because I actually produced the cover of my book myself because I have this background. I'm really lucky because I was able
It's a
to do it
beautiful
myself, of
cover.
course.
I
Thank you so
I
much.
honestly love the cover.
Can I
It's
show it
so
off
pretty.
to
Yes,
your
please show
audience?
it off. Yes,
Okay. This is the hardcover edition of the Crimson Fire. This is the spine. This is the
it's
back.
beautiful.
So I have been dealing with artists and all the other figures that work in the advertisement side of things for 20 years now. So I knew where to find good artists. So I bought the back illustration, this landscape that you have on the back, and then I designed myself the figure, this one.
Oh,
When you
cool.
read the book, you understand who's this guy. And
Hmm.
then I positioned the red moon here, and I did the typography and all the rest. So I never stop tweaking and working on that while I'm writing. So now I'm writing the second book, and I'm actively working on the cover and working and reworking the typography on the inside and chapter headers and all the rest. So I love the conceptualization. I love meeting my characters for the first time. I love going finding the color palette and selecting the red for this cover, the gold and orange for the cover of the second book, and to try and select the right font for the inside. Okay, it's
Hmm.
a really encompassing process. And given the fact that I'm not a huge planner, I learned to become a little bit more of a plotter, to hit certain bits and to have specific results during the writing process and the editing process, but I always try to give myself a lot of leeway to experience the story as I write it. I think that the most satisfying moment is when you hit that moment when you actually get to know the character, the core of your character. When you have that
Oh.
specific conversation, the specific moment when all their structures, all their shields of their will to do, they crumble away, and you see the real inside, the weaknesses and the fears and the dreams, those lines, those slight gestures that really tell you, now I know this guy. Even he's the bad guy, or if he's your hero. And then because I live myself this grace to discover the story with while I'm writing and with the reader, there's nothing better to have when you have a plot moment that clicks and you didn't plan for it. You didn't realize that
Oh.
piece of the story was going to go exactly that way because you were trying to give people and readers interesting question, but you didn't have exactly the right answer still yet. But then that answer arrives because maybe you dreamed about it. Maybe you were having breakfast and then suddenly it lights up in your mind. Those moments are blissful. Those are amazing because you actually feel like you're creating something really strong, really interesting, really amazing. And you actually itch and you cannot wait for people to experience them the same way, or at least in a similar way you experience them. So for me, it's a process that goes all in, all the time, 24/7. I cannot stop thinking about my books until I push them away, until I click the publish button, and then I switch on the marketing side. But yeah, the conceptualization and then the meeting the characters and then the clicking of the stories, those are moments that makes me feel like I'm doing something worth it, something useful, something funny, and I'm not tired anymore because this is a really stressful, it's a really stressful job. But when I go through those moments, all that stress that fades away, and I'm happy.
Wow, that is so cool. I imagine that that inspiration strike, like you were talking
Yeah,
about, is probably, I'm assuming it probably doesn't happen super often, but when it does, I bet it's just this sense of relief of, yes, this character is moving in the right direction. This plot point finally worked out, and it's probably a really satisfying, exciting moment. And I can still
yeah,
see that you do have such a love of writing and publishing and your story, and that probably helps you keep that alive because you've I assume you've been working on it for quite a while,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
but you're
absolutely.
still not tired of it. I can still see that you're still excited and you love it. So
Yeah, the
I
more
love to
time
see that.
passes, the more you learn your strengths and your weaknesses, and you understand when it is worth it to push yourself to do a little bit more, to work a little bit more, and you also learn when you simply need to rest. And when to push, it's actually detrimental to your process and to the story. So you can actually train your brain to um, kind of keep working on something even if you're doing something else. Keep
Mhm.
working on your story even if you're doing menial things in your life, and you actually learn to accept it because you're working on your story even if you're not actually typing. And that, especially if you're someone like me who really hate to be a plotter, that every chapter has to have a specific length, that every character
Mhm.
has to have a specific arc, that it's set in stone. So when you don't work like that, when your mind doesn't work like that, you really have to allow yourself to let it breathe. Go on
Mhm.
a run, go to clean your house, do something else, cook, sleep a little bit more. Your mind will figure it out. It's still working on your project. Don't worry.
I think that is really good advice because I think a
Yeah.
lot of authors get discouraged if they haven't written like a certain number of
Hmm.
words each day, or,
Hmm.
oh, I didn't sit at my laptop for 4 hours today and therefore I'm a bad writer. But like you said, you're always thinking on it. A lot of authors get discouraged if they're
Hmm.
not doing a certain number of words each day. And I think
Hmm.
that they forget that thinking about your story, planning it out, even like you said, if it's just kind of ruminating in the back of your mind, you're still working on your story. You're
Yeah.
still like making progress on it. And I think that that's often undervalued.
Yeah.
So I think that's
I,
really
th-
cool that you emphasize that.
I also think that you kind of have to put your body and your mind in a context that facilitates a few things. So when you're writing, I don't write a lot of those, but when you're writing a romance scene, you maybe something really, really warm with a lot of unsaid things, simply put Taylor Swift on the background, use the right music, okay? Okay, you create the mood. A lot of my best action scene that I have ever written, they came out in my mind while I was on the gym. So I think there is a connection between the way what your body is actually doing, what your muscles are doing, what your mind is actually trying to accomplish, and what it is able to come up with. If you're going through a quest, just take a walk. If you need to describe the sceneries, just try and watch a lot of what's around you. That's why I am a firm believer that you should have a pin board for whatever scene you're trying to describe. There's a lot of AI slop nowadays, too bad,
Yeah.
but an extremely visual person and I need to kind of experience the things that I'm trying to describe because I have that kind of background. Before doing advertisement, I was a, a master of arts, we say in Italy. It means that did a classic school to learn to paint, to do classic painting and
That's
drawing.
amazing. That sounds
So
awesome.
yeah, I'm sorry that don't have that a lot of time to do that. But my house and my study, it's full of the things that I was trying 20 years ago. So I think that you have to put yourself in a position to facilitate a few things, let's say. And that's why when I have to depict two people struggling or arguing, I try to remember the worst fight of my life when I was fighting with my friends or relatives. So yeah, I think that the brain is really amazing for those things, and you have to be smart and try to create an environment that facilitates that kind of creative effort, I
I
think.
think you're right. I think that that definitely will help put you in the right mood for those certain scenes. And I've noticed because I write a little bit, and I've noticed if I go to the park or somewhere, because my office is very chaotic. I'm redoing it, but it's a mess. But if I go to the park or get out of the house where I can like calm my brain a little bit more, I don't have all the distractions. I'm much more creative, and I feel like
Exactly.
I get a lot more progress just because I've put myself in an environment that helps with it. Yeah.
Smart.
So thank you. So what are your favorite type of scenes to write?
Okay, so that changed through the years. When I started writing novels, I actually started writing science fiction in Italy. My best-selling novels in Italy are techno thrillers and science fiction. And maybe one day they will come to the US. I don't know. It's a
Yeah,
difficult,
that'd be cool.
it's a long journey. But I started with really high octane novels, really fast paced with a lot of action. And what I loved to write then were close close quarter combat, so hand to hand combat, and twists, those gotcha moments when you had your readers doing what is going on right now. That's what I loved. By growing up and growing as a reader and as a person and as an author, and thanks to writers like Robin Hobb and Lois McMaster Bujold, and that changed. Now I'm a much more of an intimate reader. I like quiet moments. I like conversation. I like a little bit of amusement about and conversation about big themes. So I'm never bored when I like the characters. So I like to write character moments. I like to write character development moments. I never bored when I have two characters that I liked or that I love to hate. Having a conversation, yeah, that conversation can last 50 pages for me because I love to spy on them and to watch
Because you're
what they're going
nosy.
on. Yeah, and try to see how they actually fight without actually fighting, just with words, just by hiding something or lying or trying to manipulate the others. Those are moments that really kind of they push me away from my real life and they make me live in another universe. Or those moments when you actually have the character alone, having an internal dialogues, describing the world, discovering the world, especially my characters in the Crimson Fire, most of them, I have a 50-50% between person that have a really understanding of the world and a lot of experience. They really know. So the way they describe the world and the way they experience their surrounding, they're influenced by that. They describe just a few things, and then they have an opinion about those that is, of course, influenced by their experience. But then I have another 50% that have very little experience, and I love to see them experience that kind of awe in discovery of big cities, big forests, and cultures that they don't know and that don't necessarily understand. And it's really easy to connect with that for a reader, while you have to do a little bit more of a heavy lifting to try to put yourself in the shoes of someone who knows their world really well. Okay, there are a lot of barriers there. But when you have a character who's discovering, writing those is incredible because I'm allowing myself to open this portal to another world that I wish so much it was real, and I
Yes.
fight to the death to try to make it feel real for the others. Those moments are incredible when you actually uh, when it clicks, when you're actually stepping and going in and feeling the noises and the smells and the temperatures and the voices of the people and the music and the breeze of the winds and the noises of the sea, and those are incredible. That's why it changed, because it's much more for me in the experience. It's much more important that the plot twist and that the gotcha moment. And I try to leave all of those because those are important to make the story interesting, and because it doesn't become boring. Of course, I try to insert all of the gotcha moment and all of the twists in the second part of the stories. I do much more of character building at the beginning of the book. I give them much more space to breathe, and then the pacing goes up, and then you have the last maybe 100 pages when a lot of things happens and a lot of backstabbing and a lot of bloody moments and all the rest. Because I think that if you have that kind of slow build and slow burn, all of those moments have much more of an impact and give you, and actually they actually matter. While if you, depending on the genre, there's a few genre that they need to have a faster pacing and a lot of things happening. But when you write epic fantasy or political fantasy, you can actually allow yourself to be kind of slow at the beginning and then leaving all the exciting, really bloody stuff to the end. And then it matters. If someone dies, it matters. But if it starts at the beginning in a very easygoing way, I think it's not worth it. I'd have a really interesting conversation with myself writing books 9 years ago to try to see how different our ways to see characters and stories are. But for me, yeah, it changed. But I think it's a more mature, it's a more accomplished way to see storytelling for now. I hope, at
Yes.
least, because I'm growing old, so I hope I'm becoming better as
I
a
was going to
writer.
say, I actually think that shows a lot of growth in your writing. And I
Uh,
think that that shows a more maturity, like you said,
mhm.
because the action scenes, they're really fun to write. It's very
Yeah,
exciting. There's a lot happening. But in order to have that be effective, like you were saying, you have to have all of the buildup. We need the character backstory. We need to feel what the world is like. We need to understand the world. And so I think that that shows that your writing has just exponentially grown over the
yeah,
years that you've been writing because you have improved so much and you are focusing on the slower details. The slower details really help make the story. So that's
yeah,
exciting.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think that most of the people, if I did a good job promoting the book, they know what they can
Yeah.
expect. But of course, not all the people that have been in contact with my book know what I was trying to do, and I understand that people see an epic fantasy cover and they say, "Ooh, looks like the Stormlight Archives from the UK edition," and I like it, and I think I'm going to find a Kaladin arc story, that kind of epic fantasy progression story. That is not definitely not my kind of story, you know. And I understand if someone is kind of disappointed because they wanted something much more action oriented or with the classic hero who's become stronger and stronger. And maybe they didn't expect to have four point of view with two women and two men. So yeah, but I think that if you give me time, if you allow me to, if you stay with my book for the 30% of the book I don't think you're going to leave it, and you're going to
Yeah.
accept where I was trying to do it. And if you don't like it, it's good. There's a lot of
Yeah.
books around. I hope you find something else that you enjoyed.
That's a very gracious way to say that. But
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
like you said, 30% totally. I give
Hmm.
books at least that long before
Yeah,
I give up because
yeah, me
there's so
too. Yeah.
much happening in that time. Like you're still setting up the world, meeting the characters, and so
Especially for a first volume. Then in the
yes.
second and third, a lot of the heavy lifting was done in the first book, so you can allow yourself to be a little bit more snappy and more things happening during the course of the story because you have the setup in the first book, and the story can go firing on all cylinders on the second and third. So yeah, and that's a hint that the second book is much much faster, and there's a lot of things happening more. It's much more action. There's more. It's not action oriented. I don't think I'm that kind of writer, but there is more struggling and fighting and swords going on in the second book.
I am really excited about that. Unfortunately, we're going to be cut off in like a little over a minute because we were
Yeah,
restricted to just the 40 minutes,
yeah.
but I wish
Mhm.
we had more time to hear
Oh,
about
I
the
know.
the
Me
sequel.
too.
We
It was so
maybe we do
fun.
another interview because this was actually a lot of
Absolutely.
fun.
Yeah.
So really quickly, if someone wants to pick up your book, what formats is it available in and where can they find
Okay, everybody ask about the audiobook. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. It's difficult. It's
it?
hard for indie authors to do audiobooks, but I'm working on it. So you have hardcovers, paperbacks, and ebooks. They're all exclusive on Amazon. So if you live in a place that it is covered by Amazon, you can buy it. Maybe one day I'll enlarge the distribution to other channels, but for now, if you have Amazon in your country, you can find my books. Just tap Abel Montero, you'll find me.
Perfect. Abel, this was so much fun. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so
I'm really
much.
sad we're out of time. We will do another interview because this was great.
Absolutely, whatever you want. It was great.
Perfect. Perfect. Everybody who listens and watches, please go and check out Abel Montero's book, The Crimson Fire. You won't regret it.
Thank you so much.